Good afternoon, everyone. Adam Orca here from LMN. Wanted to thank all of you on behalf of the entire LMN team for attending today's webinar. Our guest for today is Dave DiGregorio, originally born in New York and moved to Cleveland at a young age. After finishing an impressively long tenure at Ohio University, he moved back home to transition into his professional career. Dave worked part-time at Groundworks, while chasing the dream as a musician. As things settled down and the dream sailed away, Dave began to see the landscaping industry as a real career path. Inspired by relentless hard work from the Groundworks owner Tony Nasrallah, Dave started to grow his own book of business within the company. Now going into his 9th season with the company, personal and company growth is seeing incredible strides. With over 1 million in personal sales, 3.5 million in company-wide sales, and a healthy net profit of 10%, Groundworks Land Design are on track to achieving their goal of becoming the best landscape professional in the greater Cleveland area and enhancing the level of professionalism within the green industry. During today's webinar, feel free to ask questions in the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will do our best to answer them. So without further ado, I will pass things over to Dave and he can get the session started.
Thank you, Adam, for a nice intro, and thank you, LMN, for having me here today. And hello to everybody out there. Thanks for logging in. I know everybody's busy, so appreciate you taking the time to sit with me and kind of talk through this. So today, my presentation is, the title is From Paper to Profit. It's probably something that either some of you have overcome or going through right now. Hopefully it's relatable and we can kind of go through and learn, early days to now. So some of the goals and agendas today is I just want to create a firm understanding of the use of CRMs and how it can help you grow your business. We want to apply what you've learned to your business today. Feel free to ask any questions at any time. We're open and I like shooting from the hip. So, we want to talk about generally what a CRM is, what Groundworks was doing before using a CRM, what kind of problems we were facing before using that CRM, LMN in the early days versus how we're using it now, and what we're doing with the CRM now that has helped improve the business. So a little background on myself. I'm currently the project manager at Groundworks Land Design. Wear a lot of hats, as sure as many of you know the same feeling. I am married, a proud father. I have a 5-year-old daughter and twin boys in that picture down there, Frankie and Carlo. They're my pandemic babies. It's been a fun 7-8 months to bring kids into the world. I've got a passion for playing and writing music. I love cigars and the fun challenges of being addicted to the game of golf. My background at Groundworks was, a real starter from the bottom, now we hear type of scenario. So I took the job as a part-time gig, and I on my first day learned how to use a choke and how to mix oil and gas and how to turn on a blower and all the early things. And that was a part-time job, and it kind of turned into full-time. And I took a liking to it, a liking to the industry. The owner of the company was a friend of mine, and I really saw a future, and I loved being involved and seeing direct growth and direct impact from the things I was doing on a day-to-day basis. Groundworks, a little background on our company, is Northeast Ohio's premier residential and commercial landscape and design company focused on customer satisfaction. What we try to do at Groundworks and what we focus on is high-end residential landscape install and maintenance. We want to deliver a professional experience to our clients from start to finish, whether that's something as simple as maintaining the irrigation system all the way up to building, large-scale pools and outdoor kitchens and verandas and things of that nature. Our reputation has taken years to build, and we've done that by delivering a great product and always operating with integrity, cultivating good long-term relationships with our clients, with our customers and our community, always putting excellence forward in everything we do. And all those things together have helped us build an excellent reputation in our community, which makes our jobs easier. So what a CRM is, and I'm sure some of you out there are familiar with a CRM or maybe using one, but for the most base level, this is a customer relationship management tool. So it's essentially a digital record of any leads that come in. That's really the first place you start. So when somebody calls in, you're collecting their information, like what is their name, what is their phone number, address, really simple baseline. It's just a way to record digitally and organize, track, and cultivate all of your client relationships. As you get into it a little more, keeping a nice firm history of your client successes and failures allow you to go back, reflect, and grow, have a good centralized place to keep all that information and where you can learn to better yourself and better your business. In our opinion, it's absolutely essential in every business, everywhere, whether it's landscaping, logistics, so any business anywhere. Really, a CRM is going to be your backbone. 91% of businesses with 11 employees or more are now using a CRM, compared to only 50% with 10 employees or less. I'd expect that number goes up. Pretty much any company that's getting started out or at a higher level is going to be using some form of digital CRM moving forward. So I want to start kind of explain our journey and what life was like before LMN. So if you look closely, you can see along our wonderful back wall there a huge stack of manila papers with lead sheets and timesheets and legal notepads. And this was a really great system for us, because if you needed to find one of your clients' information, you would just walk over to the stack and go through every single manila folder until you found Mrs. Jones's information, so you can call her to follow up on what she needed or what she's looking for. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic here. It was a nightmare, and I don't know, some of you out there may be going through this now, where you're using kind of paper lead sheets or paper estimates. As you know, time is everything. So when it takes you 5, 10, 15 minutes, say you're out on the road on a sales call and you don't have somebody's information or what you estimated for them, you have to go back to the office and you have to find that piece of paper, and hopefully you do find it, and then you can get that information to them. In something with a CRM like LMN, that something that becomes a 15-second process, saves you hours of work and ultimately increases your efficiency at the end of the day. So here's another fun example of, before LMN and in our paper days, we've got a lawn maintenance timesheet. So hopefully on this day, your guy had a pen or, to write down the times. Hopefully they wrote down the right name of the account they were at. Hopefully they didn't spill any coffee on the paper so you can't read the times. And hopefully they remember to bring it inside and put it into a folder of sorts that you can look at later. After that, you can take your piece of paper and create a spreadsheet and plug in every single time, every single person that you went to, all their names, and create your own spreadsheet. As you can see, this is a very long, drawn-out process and a very difficult way to track. Now, it's better to track than not track, but without a CRM, these are some of the things you're dealing with. And from an office and from a sales level, this is painstakingly difficult to deal with. It's going to eat up a ton of your time, a ton of your hours, where you should be focusing more on, sales and client relationships and client expectations, making their experience great instead of spending all your time doing this, and even on the paper too. I mean, if this is your billing system, the inaccuracies are very high. Things go missing, things, don't make it into the right place, and you're wasting a lot of time and a lot of money not having a good digital record. Again, more paper and lead sheets, and even our dog was sad to see all this paper all over the place. Sticky notes, lead sheets, envelopes, you name it. I mean, there's just things everywhere. And this was life before a CRM. This was life before LMN. It was full of paper and a lot of broken processes. So CRM equals Element. So basically, Element is a CRM. It's more than that. Before we got to Element, we used a few different platforms, Salesforce, Seamless, some other different things we tried that were just non-landscape specific. So once we landed on Element, it was a lot of research. We met them at the GIE Expo. And we're pretty impressed by their product. There was a few other on the table, so it was a little bit of research and a good job on their end, making their product seem very attractive, and a little bit of luck that we just happened to pick them, go with that, and make a good decision. So Element really is a start to finish ecosystem for landscape professionals. So it starts on a CRM base level of collecting your client's information, the name, address, emails. And it takes it into the estimating phase, it takes it into the production phase, and takes you into all the way into P&L and customer experience. So it's really start to finish. They've done a great job of creating an ecosystem of something that started as just a CRM to really, how do you work the whole process start to finish with your clients? Their customer service has been fantastic for us. Anytime we've had issues, they answer it. They offer a lot of boot camps. And just the biggest benefit was the ability to highlight and understand profitability of the company in general. So from an individual client standpoint and on a larger scale, based on the whole company in general, it highlights your successes and your failures. So, it's a big thing. You always want to pat yourself in the back when things are going well, but more importantly, it pinpoints, when you're not doing well and where you need to improve. In the early days, so if some of you are not using Element and considering it, there is a little bit of a transition period that you should be aware of, and it really just comes down to willingness to change and adapt to an all digital system. There's going to be some major changes to your culture and to your systems, but you got to accept it and be willing to do that, and it will pay off big time down the road. You put in the work now, and you're going to reap the rewards for years and years to come. I would recommend tackling the big scary changes first. For us, one of those things was our chart of accounts. So that's something we needed to clean up on the back end before we could move forward and improve, our accounting systems. And just be patient. The systems, they take time. It takes time to develop. And the further along you go, the more data you collect on a digital scale, and the more you are able to dial in, your processes and your rates for your company. Element now. So once we got over those hurdles, we got over some of those, early woes of building out the system. We've really been able to make some serious strides. So one of the biggest things for a CRM and specifically Element is that it's mobile and cloud-based. As landscapers, we are always on the run. We're always on the move. Everything is very fast-paced. So to be able to access everything you need for all of your clients, from their information, email, phone number to every estimate you provided, all that, it's very, very, very important to be able to access that anywhere. So from a phone, from a computer, anywhere you are, you can access that. Some things we've learned to do is to streamline the estimating process by copying estimates, creating templates, and copying line items. So instead of building things start to finish, one line item at a time, you can take someone that maybe did a patio recently with similar materials, copy over. A 10-minute process now becomes a 1 or 2 minute process. And at the end of the day, efficiency is king. So the more you can stretch your ability out as an individual, the more profitable you become. Standardizing installation rates. So this is something that takes time. As we've collected data over the years, we've been able to standardize installation rates for our company. Now, you can look online and find, a yard of soil takes this long, but at the end of the day, everybody's company is different, the way they do things. So it's really important to standardize your installation rates. And that's allowed us to scale, to plug people in. So now we can have people just estimating accurately and doing it on a very quick basis. Providing a professional looking same day estimate to beat your competition to the punch, so when you get those, white, yellow, pink tri-fold papers, or you get an email with your logo on it, with the estimate, with their information that comes in, and you're able to sign that and do the things online, you're presenting better as a company, you're presenting as a professional. That really sets you apart from a lot of competition, is just looking professional every step of the way gives those prospect clients the confidence to, make a decision and go with your company. We've now collected over 5 years of data custom to our business. So that kind of goes back to the standardizing installation rates. It's been absolutely invaluable to have that data digitally stored in the CRM, in LMN, to go back and reflect. A lot of times just being able to say no to contracts or having to raise prices because, a lot of times those big dollar maintenance accounts or big dollar, construction projects seem like there's, endless amounts of fudge in here. There's no way we can lose. But, at the end of the day, we're selling man hours, we're selling labor. And if you're spending more time than what you're selling, sometimes you got to walk away. You got to be able to say no. So that data is very important. And at the end of the day, they're constantly updating and moving with the industry, which we need to do as landscape professionals. Just this morning, they rolled out some more, features of the customer portal, which is a fantastic way to really keep transparency with your client. And now there's all kinds of great new features on the portal that are going to really enhance that experience. And at the end of the day, that's what will separate you. That's what separated us as landscapers, is that landscape experience for our clients. Everybody can install a yard of mulch, everybody can lay a brick, but how are you managing that experience for your client from start to finish? That's what's going to set you apart. Not the quality of work is important, but almost everybody can do that. Not everybody can provide an incredible client experience. So my journey with LMN, started back in 2015. Really, that's kind of when I started my sales journey as well. So I had worked in the field from 2011 to 2015, then made the transition into a sales position. And it was very humble. It was a long training period. It was tough to start to learn the business, especially when we were on an all paper system at that time. So my first year in sales, I did about 200,000, felt pretty good about it. Was pretty impressed with myself. But realized through that first year, there's got to be a better way to do some of these things. There has to be a better way than taking a phone call, writing down a name and a number. So we started exploring some CRM. So 2016, there was a bit of a jump there when we were using, we started using Salesforce and ultimately landed on LMN in 2016. So that was a big year for us to grow a little bit, So then I got up to about the $350,000 mark. Our company was about maybe $1.2, $1.3 million mark that year. And then 2017, start another slow, gradual growth. We got better with LMN. We were better at some of our processes. We got more heavy on tech and more heavy on leaning on software to help us maximize our processes, and got up to about the $600,000 mark. Now that year is kind of when I started to feel like I'm not sure how much more I can do as an individual salesperson. I'm going to need some help pretty soon. I'm going to need some help. I'm going to need more people in the office, someone to help me take some more of these leads, or we have another person take on some of that work. Working a lot of hours, correcting a lot of mistakes in the field, things that could have been prevented from better planning, better use of CRM, better use of LMN. But I remember starting to feel in 2017, like I'm doing 70, 80 hours a week. I don't know how much more I can do. 2018 came around. We made a lot of changes over the winter. We got even better with LMN. We got even better. At this point now, we have 2 years of data to look back on some of our contracts. We were able to actually look and understand that we need to actually raise our prices on a lot of these accounts. And we were able to do that across the board by 10, 15, 20, 25% on some accounts. And we had a good enough reputation, good enough relationship with our clients that they trusted us and said, we're going to stick with you guys. But, we never would have been able to highlight that without having LMN, that digital tracking, that digital CRM format to really push us to the next level. So that year I got about to the 750 mark, 750,000 in sales, still working a ton of hours, really grinding it out. Was shocked that I was able to almost double my sales when I felt like the year before I'm getting to the top of my I'm peaking. I can't possibly do any more. So 2018, about 750. The company was just shy of about 2 million, a little over 2 million in 2018. And this year, 2018 to 2019 was probably our biggest transition. We really dialed in on Element. We really got good at our installation rates. We really got good at knowing where we need to be truly profitable, and how we best use the system. So some of those things like copying estimates, some of those things like just knowing how the system works really well. We were able to make a huge leap there. And in 2018, I knew there was no way I can squeeze anything out of here. 750,000. There's no possible way I can successfully sell more and manage more. And last year, 2019, was I hit a really big personal goal, which is over $1 million in sales. So I ended up at about 1.1 million in sales, unassisted. So that's doing the designs, doing the estimates, doing the project management, managing our maintenance division. And it really all comes back to tech. It comes back to CRM. It comes back to LMN, and making those processes very efficient, making those processes, really seamless. And there's no way we could have done that without technology. And we've actually been able to do that more successful than ever. So 2020 projections are still going up. Hoping to land somewhere around 1.3, 1.4. The company is going to end somewhere around 3.5, 3.6. All the while, our profit margins has also gone up. So, in 2015, 2016, we were probably in the 3 to 4% range, and we've been able to increase our revenue quite a bit, grow a lot, and also increase our net profits now are over 10% on an annual basis. We want to keep growing that, but we're really proud of that. It's taken a lot of work. All the while, we have not added any staff members in the office. We have not added much more staff in the field. All we've done is perfected our processes. We've trimmed as much fat as we possibly can at every single corner, leaned on equipment, machines, tools, and technology. And that's allowed us to, without adding a single person on an office level, to grow from 2016 at about 1 million to 2020 at 3.5 million. So you can imagine that's a big jump, and we're just regular people like you, and we just want to keep getting better and improving our processes, and Element has been a big help to that.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I got a question here from one of the
Sure.
guests. How many salespeople does your company have? Dave, great work.
Thank you. So right now we have 3 people that do sales. So myself, the owner of the company, and then we have a full-time designer that's doing our 3D, 2D designs. So he'll sell projects individually. The owner sells a bulk of the new construction and construction projects, and then I sell all of our small cap projects, enhancements, and all of the maintenance programs. So we have 3 people currently. We're at about that 3.5 million mark, and we are over the winter going to be adding a 4th salesperson, and we're also going to be adding a landscape architect. So we're at a point now where as I mentioned before, I thought I could squeeze nothing else out. We are at that point now where we actually physically can't do anymore. We need some more help to grow to our next big push to 5 million.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is probably, the revenue, the sales, that's really important, obviously. But for regular people like myself and like you guys out there, this chart it speaks volumes, because, we all in landscape industry work really hard. I've been all over the country, visited a lot of companies, been to a lot of different expos, met a ton of people, and we all are in the same boat. We're hardworking people. We put in a lot of hours. And everybody wants to get to that point where they go, okay, the tireless grind, when will that end? When will I start to get some of my life back? And to me, looking back on it, this is probably the most amazing part of, using tech, using CRMs, using LMN, is getting some of your life back and eliminating stress and eliminating hours worked. So, in those first few years, it was 70, 80 hours a week, pretty consistently all year long. Winter scaled back a little bit, but not by much. But as we've been able to improve our processes, become more efficient, lean really heavily on tech, all of us across the board have been able to put less time into the business and gain greater results, which is what at the end of the day we're all looking for. Nobody in the landscape industry is afraid to work hard, but at a certain point where you start to pull your hair out and go, I just can't get everything done in a week. So processes tech has really helped. And this year, like I said, I'm hoping to do about 1.3 million in personal sales, and I've cut back to probably closer to 60 hours a week as opposed to 80 hours a week. I mean, that's 20 hours I'm getting back without decreasing my production, which is really important. Having a young family, getting some of those hours back and still being able to produce that's invaluable, absolutely invaluable. So, and the stress levels too. I'm sure we've all been there. We're less phone calls, less upset clients, setting better expectations, better work produced. All that leads to a better process for your clients, a better experience, which leads to less stress. Because the biggest thing that stresses us out is when you get the client that calls and says, "What the hell is going on? You guys aren't here. I don't know what's going on." There's nothing worse than that. So being transparent with clients and being able to, really set a good expectation, really have great planning, great processes, allows those stress levels to come down as well. And Ellen, I'm super excited for the new portal features. That's going to make things even more transparent, more efficient, to allow your clients to know exactly when you're going to be there without having to call every single person to say, "We're going to be here about this day," or 2 weeks, give me 2 weeks, so that's something that's really exciting. And we've been very fortunate this year to be able to, all of us, myself, the owner, our sales designer, our office manager, really bring the hours down to a more normal level and continue to increase sales and profit. I'm sure at this point, kind of what the theme of this whole thing is. The future landscape is in tech. It's something that we all need to transition to continue to push professionalism in our industry. 44% of businesses planning on increasing their budgets in 2021, up from 38% last year. CRM is now expected to reach over 80 billion in revenue in 2021. Find other softwares and technology that can make you and your employees more efficient. LMN is really a start to finish client experience, but there's other things out there that you can use to help you as well. Even just emails or even your workflow or to-do lists. There's ways to find that you can shave off those 3, 5, 7 minutes off of each process. That when you look at that on an annual basis is saving you 10, 20, 30 hours on every little process. So we just have a little rule of thumb: is anything we do, we times it by 365. And that's the true cost of any time you're wasting. You have to look on an annual basis on any part of the business. The biggest thing is be patient. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt again, Dave. On that note, another question from a guest, really good
Sure.
question actually. Do you utilize the timekeeping features for your foremen? Are they accurately capturing this time? And how do you use the downstream data to establish standards for your pricing metrics?
Yeah, so using the time feature is critical for us. All of our foremen are responsible for it, and they know they're responsible for it. Probably the hardest thing to police is when they're punching in the mornings. So we, want everybody to punch in as soon as they're punched in. Sometimes we have to go back and check. So that's probably the hardest part, is just going, hey, make sure a lot of people punch in when they get to the jobs. We want them when they punch in because they're on the clock at that point. So it is critical to use that. And it's critical to use that for a long period of time, because then what you can do is, as you asked on the downstream, is we're going to go back and we're going to look at seating walls. We're going to take data points from 10, 15, 20 seating walls, and we're going to look at that installation rate. And now we've, over 3, 4, 5 years, we can look at specific products. So we can look at Brussels block. How long a Brussels block is going to install a little differently than a Pisa wall. So those are things that we're looking at, and there's no quick way to that. It takes time, and it takes making sure that's exported to LMN time, making sure your foremen are doing it. I think that's probably one of the most important things, and you should be very strict on your employees about, hey, LMN time, every project, every single time. because that's where you're going to get your installation rates, and that's where you're going to get really good at knowing, I know based on square footage for our company, how long it takes to install a lawn, and not just a lawn. How long does the backyard take? It takes longer than doing a front yard. How long does doing bed preparation when you're creating beds take in the backyard compared to the front yard? There's more travel time. So we've got, we want to keep growing on that, but we've really dialed in installation rates, not only, generally speaking, but specifically geographically where they're located on the property. It makes a big difference. So yeah, I would say as much as you can capture time and spend the time to go back and reflect and find your installation rates, because every company, everybody is different on what they do. So you really got to custom tailor that to yourself and your company.
Amazing. Thanks for that. That was a credible answer.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So, the last thing is just be patient. And that kind of goes into that question is be patient. Let your systems run, let people run your systems, let that data come in over time and use as much of it as you can. To kind of build on that, one example is, we had a pretty big maintenance account. I think it was a total maybe like 60,000, and we had it for 3 or 4 years, and it was a big account for us at the time. And, you just see that revenue, and it's hard to not say yes to that. You go, yeah, well, we'll take it. Like, there's no way we can lose money on this. After we used that element time tracking and we looked at the actual numbers, we had maybe 300 man hours for the whole season, but we're spending 450 man hours. So that, I mean, it highlights a failure of, yeah, it's a big contract, it's a lot of revenue, but at the end of the day, there's more money going out than there is coming in. And we raised the price. Unfortunately, it was too much for them, and we had to walk away from it. But, not only that cost lost on that specific job, but the amount of money and opportunity that we could have made in that 150 man hours is compounding. That's all time and money lost that you can't get back. So really highlighting those failures, not being afraid to increase your prices, knowing your ideal client, and making sure that you don't stray from that. A lot of times it's very hard to walk away from big contracts, big dollar amounts, but if it's not going to work, it's just not going to work. We personally have found that high-end residential maintenance is our bread and butter. So something like that, now we know we can get 5 or 6 residential accounts full service all year long, and that's making us profitable 60,000 as opposed to losing money on one $60,000 commercial account. So in that sense, element time has been unbelievably helpful and successful, and help us dial in our ideal client. That's it for my lecture. I'm getting to the end of it here. I want to thank you guys for coming in. I think we're going to open up to questions at this point, Adam.
Yeah, we got a few questions to get through here. So first question up, can multiple employees at the company access LMN?
Yes. Yeah. So from on the estimating side and on the time side, and anyone in your company that you have signed up can access from anywhere. We tell our foremen to download the app on their phones. We used to do iPads, but it just got a little too much. It wasn't charged, or they forgot it that day. So we just have our foremen download the app. It's on their phone. They know how to use their own phone. They can take their own pictures for element time. Also on the estimating side, anyone can access. So we've got our designer, if he needs to pull up some files or estimates on a job site, he can. The owner, which is great to kind of look at what everybody's doing, can oversee everything. And then, myself, whatever I need to access from wherever, that's a really huge benefit.
Great. Another question here from a guest. What's the breakdown of your business mix, maintenance versus design/build? Is it 50-50?
Yeah, it is about 50-50. It might lean a little more on the design build side, 60-40. But it's a pretty good mix, and we've learned to split it, and the people that do what they do best stay in that world. So I've really taken the lead and really hyper focused on maintenance, being really great at maintenance and enhancement. And the owner and the designer have really taken the lead on construction. So those guys live in that world. There was a time where I took on some more design build projects, but it's really about just getting excellent, absolutely excellent at what you do and being hyper focused. Certain sizes, you got to do a little bit of both. But yeah, we're about right down the middle, and they're both lucrative parts of the business. And maintenance is one thing that we used to look at, like a lot of people, it's a necessary evil. You have to do it. And we were able to change that for ourselves and for our clients to make it a very profitable and a very consistent service that we offer now.
Perfect. Another question here from a guest.
Mhm.
Can you give us an example of how you used the 5 years of custom data to make Groundworks more profitable?
Yeah, absolutely. So one big thing we did, especially in our maintenance division, when we first started using LMN, we were doing things on a per visit basis, which most people do. We were looking at that and looking at our, whatever we were charging, $40 a cut or $50 a cut, whatever that was. We were looking at that process and going, based on the man hours and what we're getting, this is not a profitable service for us. This is not something that is bringing enough money to make it worth our time, but it's something that we know we can do. So we took that and we took, a business model we had liked from another company and looked at more of a subscription-based service. So that's looking at a fixed monthly cost for all their services as opposed to per cut. Now, had we not looked at the time and the data from LMN to realize that there's no possible way that we're for $40 or $50 per visit, we're making any money at all. It's a break even at best. We would have never explored this. So we looked into that and we were able to transition our maintenance division into subscription-based service. So, if you're telling somebody, it's the price is going to go from $40 a cut to $80 a visit, they're going to walk away. But if you tell somebody we have lawn maintenance, your spring cleanup, your irrigation system, we'll do your fall cleanup, we'll do all of that for $350 a month, they can swallow that pill better than $80 a cut because that's just crazy. It's just the way you present it. So Element was able to highlight that, make us realize we were not being profitable and we had to find a way to be profitable in maintenance. And that was one of the biggest game changers. It took our maintenance division from pretty low revenue, pretty low profit to it's now half of our business, and we get almost the same margins as we do out of design build. So that was one massive way that Element Time highlighted that for us and made us attack those problems and fix it and make it a more profitable division.
Yeah, that's very cool. Another question here from a guest. You'd mentioned same day estimates. Do you do bids in the field and mobile print, or just deliver them via email?
We don't do any printing. It's something we considered, but again, printing introduces paper, which is something we don't want to have any of. So we just do it all by email. I have in the past. There are times where I'm able to, a maintenance estimate we've got so good at that, it'll take me about 5 minutes start to finish. So there are times where I'll meet with a client, and before I start my next appointment or get to my next, prospect, I'll sit in the car, put the estimate together, email it over, and they have it within a couple hours. Which is, people are always impressed. We live in a very fast-paced world now, so everybody expects everything to be at the same speed as Amazon, no matter who you are. Everybody wants things now. So the quicker you can provide a professional estimate, the better. And yeah, you can pull up your laptop, you can tether right off your phone to get internet and put something together right on the spot in your car, or stop and grab a coffee, put a couple things together, and you can send something out the same day. And we do try to put those maintenance estimates together within 24 hours. Some of the other things take a little more time when it comes to design, but some of the quick things you can get done. I mean, churn them out 5-10 minutes, send the email out, and they've got it. And that's less time for them to wait for the competition, for them to wait to hear back from someone that might be a little cheaper, for them to wait for somebody else. They've got it. You turned it out. You were professional. You delivered an estimate right away. All signs are pointing to we should go with these guys. They're going to be really good at our property.
Yeah, that's great. I think you could even, if you wanted to deliver it right then and there, you could even go back to the truck and punch it out on your phone, couldn't you?
Yeah, you could. You definitely could do that. And we're considering doing that. We're actually looking into ways to create the estimate and then digitally sign, on an iPad right there with the client, churn out the estimate, put it together, give them the ability to sign on the spot. Now, some of the projects we do that works well for. Some of the things are a bit lengthier of a process, so it doesn't work 100% that way. But there are some services, quick little hits like spring cleanup or quick little enhancement, want to replace a few shrubs. That's really what we're looking to do at the biggest is at like commercial properties or quick enhancements where we can say, hey, Mrs. Jones, we noticed you have a couple dead shrubs and it might look nice if you added a tree here. It would be X amount of dollars, and they can give us the go ahead right there as opposed to waiting for an email and checking it that night. But yeah, we would love to do have some sort of in-person service agreement that we could generate right away.
Cool. Another question here from a guest. What should I expect to pay for a CRM system? I want one, but I don't have tons of money to spare.
So LMN, I'm pretty sure they offer a free version that you can at least get started with. And I think the base version is $200 a month. So I would say out of all the things we look at in investing in our businesses, this is the best money you'll ever spend. I mean, this is a way to organize your entire business. So and for the cost, there's no question. So CRM, specifically LMN for landscapers, the money you're going to spend on that is going to pay back more than any piece of equipment or truck or machine or anything else you can invest in by a long shot.
Awesome. Okay. So I guess that concludes our session for today, folks. A friendly reminder that this webinar will be available for viewing within the next 24 hours on golmn.com/webinars. And be sure to check out the LMN Academy, LMN One-to-One, our workshops, and the LMN webinars are always ongoing. Tons of free education content always coming down the line from us. And today we just released 20.11. It's a LMN update, a big update. So there's a lot of cool features that have been updated and a bunch of new things as well. So be sure to visit golmn.com and check out all those updated details. And yeah, thanks Dave for a great presentation today, and thanks again to everyone that attended. Have a great day.